आइए एक मरतबा फिर recommendations के बारे में बात करें, because recommendations, as you know, are the most important part of a policy brief. Most of the policy research is conducted to produce some kind of recommendations or alternative courses of action, or to design solutions to the problems we face. So it's very important that the section on recommendation is really very good, very precise and well written. It's very important that to know that many policymakers would read the introductions of your policy briefs and the recommendations. And if the recommendations are persuasive, and if the recommendations are practical, there are chances that they can be picked by the decision maker, and they can be adopted or notified by the policymakers, or they can actually be used by the government or private decision makers to solve particular problems which you have studied in your research briefs and in your research papers. Recommendations are generally calls to action. They should describe very clearly what should happen next. They should move from implications to the new situation. You should be able to tell your reader or the policymaker who studies your policy brief where you actually want the society to go, what you actually want them to do with the society or with their own work. So a recommendation, very briefly, is a clear suggestion for what should happen next with that particular problem you have studied. And the good recommendations are those recommendations which are stated as very precise steps. They are not complicated, but they have been described very clearly, and the steps have been identified. And you can also try to provide information on how these steps can actually be transformed into reality. So if you provide how these recommendations can be actualized or translated into practical reality, or can actually be adopted by a particular government department, the chances are that your recommendations would be more attractive and persuasive for the policymakers. You should also try to ensure that your recommendations are relevant, they are credible and feasible. If the recommendations you propose cannot be undertaken, cannot be used because they are too expensive, because they are outside the institutional domain, because nothing has been done like them before, the chances are those recommendations are difficult to adopt. So you should try to make your recommendations practical, feasible and relevant, and you should try to demonstrate how they can actually be adopted or notified by the policymakers.